What is going on, guys? My name is Aaron, and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome back to another episode. And in today's episode, we're looking over episode 31, week 8 of the NFL season. Obviously, we're looking at fantasy football, and we are looking at some NFL action. And I got to sprinkle in some other content, so I hope you guys are excited about that. Sorry that I took a week off. If you guys saw my Twitter, which I don't know how many of you guys did, but if you saw it, then you would probably know that my dog, who I've had for nearly 11 years, passed away 2 Sundays ago from this recording. And I was just really down and unmotivated to do any podcast work. So I took the week off, but I did do stuff for the podcast that should make preparation a lot shorter in future podcasts. So I don't have to worry about having to rush and get everything scrambled for a Sunday to Tuesday recording, which was great. But yeah, I was very down and out. My dog Niner passed away, so obviously didn't want to do anything for that week. But we're back, and of course we have ourselves a loaded content stream, and of course we have ourselves a loaded content episode, so I hope you guys are prepared for that. Before we get started, I do want to let you guys know that early polling has opened for the presidential election for 2024. So if you're of age and you are able to vote and you're registered, go and vote. And I would recommend doing it in the early time so you don't have to fight the crowds on November 5th. I already went to go vote. If you guys haven't done it already, but you're thinking of doing it, find yourself a good time and go vote if there is early voting in your state. Obviously, there's some in mine. So I want to just let you guys know about that. Go vote. Anyways, let's get started on today's episode. Yeah, I'm wearing my Dallas Mavericks jersey because NBA season is on. Now, here on this channel, we don't tend to go into deep dives about the NBA throughout the year because of how the weeks go. I'm more or less scheduled like I am with the NFL. But when the NBA season starts and when the playoffs get going and the NBA finals, obviously that's something I'm going to pay attention to. So the NBA season starts. Now, you're seeing this on Friday. I'm recording this on Monday. So hello, Monday me. But tomorrow, Tuesday, is the beginning of the NBA season. And it is one fun time to look at. I do like the NBA season. Now, I don't tend to watch until the NFL season is done, but I tend to peek in to see how teams are doing, statistics, and to see who's playing good overall, and obviously ESPN highlights and all that. In this segment, we're going to be looking at the 8 teams per conference who I think are going to be making their mark and making the playoffs come the end of the season. So obviously we're looking at 1 through 8, and keep in mind I am thinking about the play-ins, so the last 2 teams to come in. So you'll see how I have my opinions about each and every team, including the ones that just sneak in. First off, we're going to start with the Eastern Conference, and the Eastern Conference is as followed. Number 1, I have the Boston Celtics. Number 2, I have the New York Knicks. Number 3, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 4, the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 5, the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 6 is the Orlando Magic. Number 7 is the Indiana Pacers. And number 8 is the Miami Heat. I don't think many of us have a debate about Boston. I mean, their team is roughly the same. And if you remember how they played in the finals against my Mavericks, they were unstoppable. They play like that throughout the year. They should easily secure the number 1 seed by a large margin like they did last year. The New York Knicks are a team that has made some big steps. Getting Mikal Bridges and then Karl Anthony Towns were big moves to go along with Jalen Brunson. There's going to be so much chemistry with New York that they have to be the number 2 team. I don't even think they're the most talented roster, but chemistry-wise, they are going to be great. Their margin with Boston may be somewhere in between 6 to 8 games less, which is saying a lot because, man, Boston is so good, but still, the New York Knicks are going to make some noise come postseason time. Now, the first big controversy is with Cleveland and Philadelphia. Now, obviously, Philadelphia just acquired Paul George in the offseason, which is huge to go with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But the reason why I have Cleveland high is because they tend to play better and are more healthy. The problem with Philadelphia is Joel Embiid is an S-tier kind of player. He's MVP caliber when he's healthy, but he has a lot of health issues, and Paul George as well. So there's going to be times throughout the year where we might just see a Tyrese Maxey show, and he's not that great at holding a team on his shoulders. Unfortunately, he's a great player, but not that kind of caliber just yet. That's why I think that the 76ers are going to have some of those problems, and they'll be number 4 while Cleveland is number 3. As for Milwaukee, they have one of the bigger drops, and that's because I don't think Dame and Giannis is a great pair, and I think this might be their last season together. Plus, I don't trust Doc Rivers. I do think Giannis is still going to do his thing, but he's also starting to rack up some injuries as well, so there's going to be problems there. Philadelphia, I think, has a better roster overall, and despite the injuries that will happen, they'll have some, I guess, comfort room in between them and Milwaukee, because I don't think Milwaukee's chemistry is good enough to be a top 4 team. Potentially talent-wise, you can say something different, but chemistry-wise, not really. Missing Drew Holiday is a big piece, and I don't think you can overstate that. Then I do have the Magic falling a little bit low, but that's also because there are teams that are going to get back up. The 76ers obviously are that team that's jumping, but Paulo Banchero is going to have another great year. I think he's going to take a step up and be all-star caliber, maybe even starting all-star caliber. Who knows? My thing is the Magic overall, outside of Paulo Banchero, I still have a lot of question marks, even though I do think they have a great team. They'll make it to number 6 and avoid the play-in, which will be great, and they'll be paired to play the Cavs in the playoffs. Now, I do have the Pacers beating the Heat in the first play-in game to secure the number 7 spot. Again, I do think the Magic are a step up just because I think Paulo is going to have a much better season than Tyrese Halliburton, even though I think that Halliburton's a great player, and mixing him with Turner and Siakam is big. I do think the Pacers tend to have early season struggle, and you're going to see it here. I will take the Pacers to just make the number 7 spot. And of course, Miami, everybody knows the deal about Miami. They're an S-tier team come playoff time, but prior to that, they are a very mid team, and they'll probably just sneak in, beating the Hawks, who I have as I guess, an honorable mention. They'll beat Atlanta and get to have a date with Boston, which they'll probably lose. So yeah, 1 through 8, Boston, New York, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Orlando, Indiana, Miami. Now, while there wasn't much movement that you've seen on the Eastern side, the Western side, I think, is going to be far different. So, firstly, I have the Thunder as the number 1 team, the Mavericks as number 2, the Nuggets as number 3, the Grizzlies at number 4, the Kings at 5, the Timberwolves at 6, the Suns at 7, and the Spurs at 8. So again, starting from the top, I wanted to put my Mavericks at number 1. I mean, getting Klay Thompson while also bolstering up your bench defensively, I think balances losing Derrick Jones, and you get to keep Luka, Kyrie. I believe that PJ Washington's still going to play great, and then you can interchange between Lively and Gafford, and there's going to be no arguments there. Hardy coming off the bench is going to be great. They have so many great pieces overall. The reason why I hold them back is because if you know Mavericks basketball, you know that the first 41 games, they look like a mid-team. They don't play up to their expectation. Now, if the Mavericks keep up and played the entire season as they did towards the last 20 games of last season, then they should be number 1. But if you know the Mavericks at the start of the year, they're kind of going to BS a little bit and then get it going towards the end. And I think it'll be enough to make the number 2 spot. But the Thunder, of course, they have so much talent. Shea's going to get better. They made some moves. They got Caruso. That was a big move, in my opinion. It helps your defense. I think overall, I like where the Thunder is at. Being number 1, though, doesn't guarantee anything. As you saw last year, they lost to the Mavericks in 6. So being number 1 in the West is kind of like, okay, cool. Let's see how you do in the playoffs. Then, of course, you got the Nuggets at number 3. Jokic is going to play amazing. Again, MVP caliber season incoming once more. I don't think he'll win it. Personally, I have Luka Doncic winning MVP. That could be a biasy call, but I also do think he's going to take a major step up this year. And with the stats that he had last year, I think he's going to replicate this year, and being number 2, it'll help. So the Nuggets being at number 3 is not a big stretch for me, because Jokic, again, is going to play great. Jamal Murray hopefully has a great, healthy season. I think they're missing some shooting, and I don't know how consistent Porter is, but having KCP, in my opinion, really helped. Them missing him, I don't think it's going to be a big loss, but enough to drop him a seed. Number 4, I have Morant and the Grizzlies. I mean, if Jaw's playing a full season and he stays healthy and does not get in trouble off the court with IG, you have this whole entire team to his disposal. Jaren Jackson's going to play great. Marcus Smart's great for defense. And I think Zach Edey's going to be an incredible rookie. I was shocked when the Grizzlies got him because I thought, man, that's a perfect spot for him to land. So I do think the Grizzlies are going to take a step up, but they're not going to be as good as the Mavericks. So they fall there. Number 4, though, they get to host a playoff series, so that's big. Obviously, you know how the Kings win in the offseason. They didn't make the playoffs. They were a game away but lost. The Kings got DeRozan to mix with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. That was huge. Malik Monk coming off the bench. Sacramento's going to be a lot better, and I think they're going to be the underdog team coming out of that Pacific Division. Not by a landslide. Obviously, you see that they're not one of the top four, so obviously they're going to have to play their games on the road. But still, I think Sacramento's peak right there is at number 5 because I feel they'll stay consistently healthy, and that will be huge for them. The biggest shock, though, I think, actually, no, it's the second biggest shock because you're seeing that far right side. The Timberwolves dropping to number 6. With Cat, I liked how their team looked. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is going to play great. Hopefully, Rudy has another defensive masterpiece of a season. But Julius Randle, he's a great player when he's healthy. The problem is, he's not always healthy. So you have a problem there. And then Mike Conley's getting older. I think that the Timberwolves are going to take a step down to the number 6 spot. They're still going to be potent in the playoffs. But throughout the regular season, I do think that age with some of their players and injuries with others is going to hold them back. And you got the Suns at number 7. Obviously, it's still Devin Booker. It's still Kevin Durant. Bradley Beal hopefully can have a better year. But the Suns, I think their championship window has left. I don't think they're a championship team anymore. I think that they're going to be a very good team, but in the playoffs, they're going to play kind of meh. Obviously, you saw how they did against the Timberwolves. They looked awful. I'm pretty sure it was either them alone or one other team that got swept in the first round. So obviously big problems there. I still think they are a playoff team. They're definitely a play-in team, and they would win against the Pelicans in the play-in, which then leads to number 8. This might be my biggest reach, is the Spurs. It's because if you look at the history of Chris Paul outside of Golden State, he goes to Houston, that team was like, they were so close. If he didn't get injured, they would have made the finals. He goes to the Thunder, makes them incredibly great, and Shea starts to break out. Obviously, big news there, so they looked great then, and they had a pretty good team. Obviously, having Steven Adams as your center was great. Shea, of course. I liked the Thunder in 2020. And then he goes on to Phoenix, and they make the NBA Finals, which was just incredible for CP3, but obviously they didn't win it all. And then they continue to struggle afterwards. I think that CP3's presence makes Wembanyama a better player overall. And getting Harrison Barnes to add additional offense, I think, is one of the best things that this team could have done. So the Spurs, I think they beat the Pelicans in the last play-in game and sneak in at number 8. That right there is the Western Conference. I am not picking championships just yet. I want to see how the season plays out first. But until then, you got to be excited, obviously. NBA season's back, and I think that it's going to be a very competitive league, a very loaded Western Conference, and of course, Boston is the team that everybody's reaching, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, now let's move on to fantasy football. I lost by 1 measly point. Mike Evans got me 8 points. He was doing great. 25 yards at the time, a touchdown. He just needed to get me 15 more yards, but then he re-aggravated his hamstring injury before potentially catching his second touchdown. So that really, really hurt. I hope he's okay. But I lost. I'm 3-4. That was one of my least favorite losses I've ever had because, man, if he stays healthy, there's no doubt I win. It is what it is. So, I mean, whatever. But we're going to get started for this week. I mean, looking back to that game, I messed up with the Shaheed thing. I didn't realize that he went out until it was too late, and it was just very unfortunate. But if I were to have switched him in time, I would have won. So that one's on me, but we're going to get started with this week. So it was really tough to gauge the lineup. Obviously, Shaheed, he was one of my best players, and now he has to go because he's out for the rest of the year. I have a chance of picking up DJ Moore. I guess we'll see because I'm recording this on a Tuesday. Wednesday, free agency opens up then. Hopefully, I get DJ Moore. If I do, that will be huge to put him along with a wide receiver core with A.J. Brown, with Amari Cooper, also having Mike Evans and Deebo Samuel, who's also dealing with injury, more or less illness and pneumonia, but hopefully he'll be back by the time this week starts. Though I don't have him starting, I don't have Deebo starting, I actually have a more balanced lineup this time around, so let's take a look at what we got. At quarterback, I got Jordan Love. My 3 running backs currently, this is subject to change, are Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt. My 2 wide receivers are A.J. Brown and Amari Cooper. My kicker is Harrison Butker, and my defense is Kansas City. Jordan Love is playing one of the worst defenses in the league with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why I have him as my starter and not Stroud, who, by the way, was terrible against Green Bay on fantasy level. So I'm going to take a break from him, even though he's playing Indianapolis and he did well against Indy. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, if he's healthy, I'm going to start him. Nick Chubb, hopefully he's going to do a lot better. Obviously, the Browns are going through a big transition because he got healthy, Watson got injured, and now they're probably going to start Jameis Winston. So they're probably going to have to rely on him, which is going to be good for this week. Hopefully his fantasy production goes up. The start for Kareem Hunt, I mean, he's playing against the Raiders and he's been playing great of the last 2 weeks. So that's why I'm having him starting. And then AJ Brown has been very solid for me since he's gotten back. Amari Cooper, he's probably rejuvenated, so I'm happy to have him back. And then, of course, Bucker playing the Raiders and the Chiefs defense, again, playing the Raiders. So I'm very excited. I think that Kansas City is going to do well. So I have a lot of hope for this week. As for my opponents, currently he has Josh Allen. That sucks. He has Montgomery, or David Montgomery from Detroit, starting. Alvin Kamara, Justin Jefferson, Sam Laporta, Austin Eckler, Justin Tucker in the Pittsburgh defense. I'm projected to win, but that is a very, very, very tough lineup. Justin Jefferson's going to probably have himself a good game. Same with Montgomery. I mean, Detroit's been playing so good. Like, I hope Josh Allen, if he has a great game, a lot of it is to Amari Cooper to make up for some ground. But we're just going to have to wait and see. I think the defense is where I'm going to win. So I hope that Kansas City can really hold and, put up a lot of points for me. Otherwise, I'm going to be in hot waters here. Now that we have the fantasy matchup out of the way, let's take a look at the 15 games that we're going to be looking at from what I believe is the worst to the best. So without further ado, let's get started. The 15 games, I went 11-4 last week. Huge. That, again, back-to-back great weeks. That puts my record overall to 66-41. So that is a very solid record. And with 16 games, obviously we're going to be looking over 15. I'm very excited to hopefully boost this record up. So let's get started with what I believe is going to be the worst game of the week, and that is the 1-6 Carolina Panthers at the 4-3 Denver Broncos. This is a very lopsided game when you look at it, and I'm just not interested in these teams as much as you think I would. I mean, Carolina made that quarterback switch. I thought they would do a lot better. They had one good game, and then since then they have not played good at all. As for Denver, they've turned things around, but they're one of the more boring 4-3 teams because offensively they're not doing incredible, but they're definitely a step up from future years. So that's a nice thing to look at. And with that said, obviously these teams are moving in two different directions. The Denver Broncos are going to win this game 27-14. I mean, Bo Nix he's racing, trying to get to the best rookie of the year. It's going to be really hard to catch Jaden Daniels though. So he has a long ways to go, but maybe. Just maybe, if he can just start popping off a little bit more. This is an opportunity for Denver to catch up with the rest of the AFC. They really need to win this game just to move up to 5-3 and, start to put themselves in playoff presence. So yeah, give me Denver. Next up, we have the 1-5 Tennessee Titans and the 5-1 Detroit Lions as the second worst game. Again, extremely lopsided. Tennessee has almost no identity, and Detroit has all of it. I mean, Detroit from back-to-back weeks blows out the Cowboys and then gives it to the Minnesota Vikings in a close game, but still takes away another undefeated team. So Detroit right now, even though Kansas City is undefeated, you can make a legitimate argument that the Lions are the best team in the NFL. And I don't think I'd argue with you if you did, because Detroit is just firing on all cylinders. Right now, the best Super Bowl matchup would be them and the Ravens, because I think they're the two most high-powered teams in the NFL. And Tennessee, I mean, Will Levis is not doing as great as I thought he would. I didn't think they were going to be the best team in the AFC South, but this bad? Come on, man. But that's what happens when you lose Derrick Henry. Tony Pollard's good, but he's not as good as Henry. The rest of the offense is not getting there. The defense doesn't look that great. Give me the Lions to win 35-13. Detroit is just far more superior. It's in Detroit. Jared Goff right now is on an MVP caliber season, and that defense, even without Hutchinson, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I think they're going to do well against Tennessee. It's easy. Give me the Lions. Next up, with the third worst game, I actually give it to the 2-5 New Orleans Saints versus the 3-3 Los Angeles Chargers. What happened, New Orleans? For 2 weeks in a row, y'all were my best team, blowing out the Cowboys. You blew them out. You also blew out the Panthers. I thought you guys were on a roll to potentially make a statement. And then you guys wet the bed. You lose 5 in a row, and now you're going into a Chargers team who just lost to the Arizona Cardinals, but still, they look compatible. They look good. They're 3-3 right now, which means that they are less than the Denver Broncos, so they have some catching up to do. And this is a good week for them because New Orleans is coming in with a backup quarterback once more. And Denver trashed them. I believe that the Chargers are going to trash them. Give me LA to win 27-9. It's not that LA's offense is spectacular, but New Orleans is so down right now. I don't know what to make of them. So, yeah, sorry. Saints are going to drop 6 in a row. Give me the Chargers. For the 12th ranked game, we have the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, the only undefeated team left after they won against San Francisco. And of course, Minnesota dropped to Detroit, facing the 2-5 Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders basically have no quarterback. They have no chance. They have no offense. Their defense is not as great as I thought they were going to be. And Kansas City, I mean, they're coming in hobbled. They have a lot of injuries on both sides, but they still have their main core: Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt has started to step up, and you got Chris Jones on the opposite side. This is extremely easy. Blowout again. The Chiefs win 31-7 over Las Vegas, and I'm so excited because I need a fantasy spark, and when the Chiefs play the Raiders in Las Vegas, this is the best time to give it. Kansas City, help me out. Help me out to win fantasy by taking control of Vegas. Thank you. For the 11th ranked matchup, we have the New York Jets at 2-5 versus the 1-6 New England Patriots. If you're wondering why this is much higher, again, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to have their second game together. And then I think it's going to be... Actually, I thought it was going to be a lot closer. It's probably not. I just think that having Aaron Rodgers in the game makes it a little better, and the Patriots will play a lot tougher to New York in Foxborough. But I still have the Jets winning 21-10. I don't even want to stay on this matchup too long. To be fair, you could interchange these 5 matchups to determine which one is the worst, and I wouldn't blame you. I mean, they're all boring. So I'll take the Jets because New England sucks. And the Jets need a game like this. If they fall to New England, you can go ahead and say goodbye to the rest of Aaron Rodgers' career because he should retire. If he can't beat New England, that's a problem. All right, here we go. We're in the top 10 now. At number 10, the 3-4 Arizona Cardinals versus the 2-4 Miami Dolphins. Here's the big headline, and here's the biggest wave. Tua might be making his return, but even though Tua is making his return, obviously there's going to be a lot of precaution. I don't think they're going to let him loose 100%, and Miami otherwise has just looked laughable overall. And despite Arizona being 3-4, they have some impressive wins under their belt. They have a blowout over the Rams, a comeback versus the Niners, and a statement win against the Chargers on Monday night. So I believe Arizona is in prime position to start catching up with the rest of the NFC West, hopefully. I mean, you're right there with the Niners. You can potentially jump them. And with that said, I obviously have the Cardinals winning this one 27-24, a very close one again. If Tua can be unleashed and he does really, really good, I mean, it's in Miami, so there's a chance that this one is going to be completely wrong, but I just don't know if they're going to unleash Tua. But if they do, good on them. At number 9, we have the 5-2 Green Bay Packers versus the 2-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. And now, again, you're probably looking at another lopsided game, and I have it that way right now. But one thing I do have to note is that a couple years ago, the Jaguars made the playoffs and got as far as the divisional round, and their record was atrocious from the first half of the year. So I think that a spark win against New England is something the Jaguars needed. But do they build momentum after that week? The answer is no, because Jordan Love is back and he is looking better than ever. He had himself, it wasn't a great game against Houston, but he made some great plays and had a game-winning drive to beat the Texans and move up to 5-2. This one's simple. Give me the Green Bay Packers to win 35-16. I just think that their offense is so much better, and their defense, I mean, it's a step up from Jacksonville. Jacksonville does not have a great defense, so it's a lopsided matchup. Give me Green Bay. The 8th best game is between the 2-5 New York Giants and the 5-2 Pittsburgh Steelers in prime time. The reason why I have this one so high is for a couple reasons. Number one, on New York's perspective, despite them being 2-5, they can play very, very competitive. It wasn't that case last week against Philadelphia, but at times you can see the competitiveness. And even though I have them being competitive, it's still not going to matter. And now you already know where I'm going. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they made a huge quarterback change. They went to Russell Wilson once he finally got healthy, and they sat down Justin Fields. And despite Russell not having a great game, he still put up 3 touchdowns total. And I think he played well enough to, have such a big difference for Pittsburgh. Their defense is constantly going to get better. And then hopefully Pickens starts to come to the party. I hope so. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win 31-13 in another lopsided matchup, but I'm just excited to see what Russell Wilson can do with Pittsburgh. So give me the Steelers to improve to 6-2. The 7th best game is between the 5-2 Baltimore Ravens and the 1-6 Cleveland Browns. Now, why this matchup? This seems like it's going to be easily lopsided. I don't think so. You see, the problem with Cleveland was Deshaun Watson. I don't think he was a great quarterback for them, but do not get that confused. I was not happy to see Deshaun Watson go down. And to you Cleveland Browns fans out there, it doesn't matter what kind of person he was off the field. Obviously, that's his issue. That's his legal problems. And obviously, it's going to taint some perspective. It is low to cheer for a man who got injured. First of all, the reason why you don't cheer is because you wouldn't want to be injured that way. That right there is excruciating. The Achilles is one of the toughest injuries to come back from. Look how Aaron Rodgers is doing. He went from being the bad man to just simply being bad. And that is playing a big role. Again, I understand a lot of people don't like Deshaun Watson for what he did in Houston, number one, and for how he's played so far in Cleveland. But that does not give you an excuse to cheer for him when he goes down. And so many people on social media are trying to make this excuse, oh, but he's a bad man. That doesn't matter. You have to be the better man. Don't forget what he did. What he did was bad. You have to be better for your sake. Cheering for a man getting injured is as low as it gets. You should not be doing that. If we criticized the Raptors for cheering when Kevin Durant went injured, we can easily criticize Cleveland. And I used to commend Browns fans to the biggest extent. I cannot do that anymore because of that. I used to commend y'all for being just true to the fan base despite the fact the team's been awful for so many years. But when you do stuff like that, I have to think a little differently because you don't cheer for when a man goes down. So I'm just asking any fan base, don't cheer for injury. We already saw what happened when the Eagles did that all those years ago. Nobody's letting that down even to this day. They're not going to let this one down. So I just want to get that out of the way. Cleveland Browns fans, be better. Don't do that. With that said, let's get to the game. First of all, Baltimore's on a 5-game winning streak, and Lamar and King Henry, I thought they were going to meet expectations. They ended up blowing them out of the water. So Baltimore right now, Lamar, I would say, is the MVP. You can make an argument that Derrick Henry should be MVP, and I wouldn't argue with you. They're both amazing. So they're looking great, and they just had a big win over the Buccaneers. As for Cleveland, again, you lost Deshaun Watson, but you did get back Nick Chubb, and Jameis Winston's going to be starting. I think that there's going to be new life in Cleveland, but it's still not going to be enough to stop what is the freight train that is the Baltimore running game. Give me the Ravens to win 31-24. It's going to be close because Cleveland has new life, and it is a rivalry game, but at the end of the day, Lamar, Henry, unstoppable force. Honestly, that rant took a lot out of me because those are the kind of things that frustrate me is when people know to be better, that should be better for themselves, but actively choose not to. So I just want what's better for everyone. Sports fans can bring the best and the worst out of ourselves, but you can cheer for when a team's losing, when a team's doing bad, but do not cheer when people get hurt. With that out of the way, the 6th ranked matchup on this list is simple. Indianapolis, Houston. Last time these two teams played, it was super competitive, and we got Anthony Richardson back. I'm pretty sure the Colts are going to get back Jonathan Taylor. I hope they do because I think he'd do well against Houston. And then, of course, Houston, They dropped their second game, but that was to Green Bay. I thought Green Bay was going to win. It was still very competitive, so good on you, Houston. You looked great. But at the end of the day, this matchup is really going to come down to the fourth quarter because it's going to be close. And there's no simple way to go about this. This is a dogfight. The Colts are 4-3, and the Texans are 5-2. A Colts victory puts them ahead in the AFC South, but I don't see that happening. Give me the Texans in a close matchup, 28-24. That's very similar to the score they had prior, 27-25. But Houston, I mean, they have the home field advantage, and they have the better team overall, the better quarterback. I think that Houston is going to prevail. All right, now we're in the top 5 matchups. First off, let's get to number 5. The 5-2 Buffalo Bills, the 4-3 Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be a fun matchup. Both have great offenses and I would say less than stellar defenses, but still compatible. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring, close game. I mean, when you look at Buffalo's side, getting Amari Cooper, I think, is going to open up that offense to so much more. And it's very simple. When teams get Amari Cooper, they tend to do a lot better. And Josh Allen is the perfect quarterback for his situation. As for Seattle, I mean, they're fully loaded. They just went on a tirade versus the Atlanta Falcons. So I have to be very, very impressed with both teams at this point. I'm going to lean Buffalo 34-31 just because I think that Josh Allen is a problem for all defenses, and Amari Cooper just added an extra level of depth to that offense. But it's not going to be easy for Buffalo. I mean, Seattle has one of the toughest crowds to play in, and their offense is still looking really, really good. And at the moment, with the Rams playing as bad as they are, the 49ers are injured, and Arizona, we're still on question marks. Seattle has a real opportunity to run away with the NFC West, but I think they're going to be halted by the Buffalo Bills right now. So give me Buffalo. The fourth ranked matchup is between the 4-2 Bears and the 5-2 Commanders. Why this matchup? Both these teams are not as great as what a lot of people would say. It's simple. The reason why it's such a big matchup is because it's the number 1 versus the number 2 overall pick, Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels. Hopefully Daniels plays, and I think he will. I mean, it was great that he didn't have to play that entire game. They still did amazing. The Bears with Caleb Williams, I can't be super impressed with them because they haven't been playing great competition. But when they have been playing, their defense is a big step up. And I do think that as the weeks go along, Caleb Williams is going to get better, but he's not better than Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, to me, is sensational. He's one of the best players in the NFL, and he's just a rookie. And Washington overall is just new life. I really see Washington week in and week out just averaging over 30 points in every single one of their games. But they are facing a really good Bears defense. And Caleb Williams, I hope that if I get DJ Moore, that Caleb's going to use him a lot. I think that this is a close matchup for, I guess, skill-wise. I still would lean Washington. And it's a bigger margin, but it's still going to be competitive. They're up, in my opinion, 35-23 in this game. I just think that Washington's offense is so powerful. Now, I can't say the same thing about their defense, even though their defense played great last week. I just think that when you look at the Commanders, they, along with Baltimore, house the 2 best offenses in football. You can make an argument that they don't belong there, but I really think they should be in that conversation. They've consistently gotten to 30 points in the majority of their games. So I have to say Washington, Jaden Daniels, even if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, Mariota's not too far off either from being that kind of talent to lead them to 35 points. So either way, I'm leaning Washington. I think that their team is just way better overall. For the third best ranked matchup, it is a dogfight race in the NFC South. It is the 4-3 Falcons at the 4-3 Buccaneers. And I have to say, I am unaware of the injury to Mike Evans. I don't know how dangerous it is. But first things first, Atlanta, what happened? They got absolutely blitzed by Seattle. And Tampa Bay, I mean, they didn't do much better versus Baltimore. But if Mike Evans stayed in the game, I feel like Tampa Bay would have won. A high-scoring close game, obviously, but still would have won. Overall, when I look at this matchup, they're very close. The last time they played was Thursday night, and Atlanta had to go to overtime in order to beat them. I think since it's going to be in Tampa Bay, and I have no idea about Mike Evans' injury. I hope he comes back. He's still questionable. We'll see how everything goes. Currently, and I could regret this, I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win 38-33. It's one of those high-scoring affairs like it was last time, but still, I just trust the Buccaneers overall at home against a Falcons team which just gave up so much at home. So I will take the Buccaneers and lean that way. For the second best matchup, I'm going to go with the 4-2 Philadelphia Eagles versus the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals. These are a pair of mid teams that are finally starting to catch their stride. Obviously, we knew that the Bengals at some point were going to catch fire. I hate that it came that this late. They should have gotten better earlier. I don't know what has happened to them, but they're looking better now. As for the Eagles, you made a statement win against the Giants, and I thought that was an incredible victory for them. This is a close matchup. The problem I have with this matchup is the Bengals defense. I don't think they're good. I think the Bengals defense could really use some work. I mean, I understand that they just only gave up 14 points against Cleveland, but to be fair, Cleveland was kind of going through some experimentation with Nick Chubb coming back and losing Deshaun Watson. With Philadelphia, on the other hand, I have to give them credit for their offensive play. I mean, I don't think it's the best in the world, and Nick Sirianni is still in a question mark for me, but I will take the Eagles to win 27-23. I just think that Philadelphia's run game is going to make a difference, and certain kind of pass plays. Hopefully AJ Brown goes off. That's where I'm trying to go. But I think it's going to happen. I think it will be a mid to high scoring game, but I will lean Philadelphia for this one. And then the best game of the week. See it right here, and you see it right here. It is the 3-3 Dallas Cowboys and the 3-4 San Francisco 49ers. Two terribly inconsistent and underwhelming teams. For Dallas's point, you get destroyed against Detroit. And you get a bye week, that's nice, but then Jerry Jones is going off talking about how we didn't need Derrick Henry. I'm as a Cowboy fan, I'm over Jerry Jones. I don't want him to be the owner anymore. I think that I actively want to root against the Cowboys until Jerry Jones is gone, just because I think he's just been running this team into the ground under his own watch, which is just, it's frustrating. And then for San Francisco, their woes are just injuries. I mean, obviously, you know about the ACL stuff with Christian McCaffrey. You just lost Brandon Ayuk for the year to an ACL injury. And then with Deebo Samuel and pneumonia. Now, I don't know how bad pneumonia is because I probably never had it before. So obviously anybody out there who's had it would probably tell me better. I'm not going to underestimate the injury, but it's something, or the sickness, but I'm not going to speculate on how long he'll be out. Maybe it's a couple of days, maybe it's a few weeks, who knows. But right now, they're just injured on all points. And everybody knows that when Brock Purdy is missing a lot of his great targets, he's not the same player. But he's playing the Dallas Cowboys. And basically anybody can tell you that right now, the Cowboys shouldn't even be considered a playoff team, let alone a Super Bowl contending team. I think that they're closer to rebuilding than they are to stardom. And right now, I just don't like what I'm seeing. Now, the Cowboys are getting back a lot of pieces, including Micah Parsons, which is big for this game. But San Francisco, despite missing some players, let's say you do get Deebo back, you still have Brock Purdy, you still have George Kittle, Trent Williams should be playing, even though he got stopped punching people, for God's sakes. And then that defense is still very powerful. I think that the defense is going to be what shines in this game on both sides, but San Francisco is going to be a lot more potent. They're going to get a lot of turnovers that are going to turn into points. I'm going to take the Niners to win 21-16 over the Cowboys. I just think that San Francisco overall, despite being very injured, I would rather have them than this mediocre Cowboy team that just straight up pisses me off as a fan. So I'm going to go with San Francisco. And I think that should be... Hold on. Now I'm in a third jersey. We're back to Monday because one more thing we're missing. I know we went through all the NFL games. I know we went through the NBA. But with the baseball jersey on, this Friday, the day this episode comes out, is the beginning of the World Series. And it's probably the most loaded matchup you're going to see in a long while, maybe even a consistent matchup we see for a few years now. It is the American League winners, the New York Yankees, versus the National League winners, the Los Angeles Dodgers. New York and LA, one of the best matchups you could have asked for a few reasons. Number one, history. If you remember back in the 40s and the 50s, these teams constantly met in the World Series. And the biggest thing at the time was the fact that the Brooklyn Dodgers, they were in Brooklyn at the time, broke the racial barriers by signing Jackie Robinson, and he turned their team into championship contenders year in and year out. They eventually got it done late, but still, the one team that thwarted them from winning many times was the Yankees, because the Yankees were the gold standard, the best team in all of sports at the time. This is history rewritten now, because the second thing that makes this matchup so great is the fact that both teams are loaded. The Yankees, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. And for the Dodgers, Showtime, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Both these teams have heavy hitters. It's going to be one heck of a matchup. Obviously, the two biggest markets is going to make this one of the most watched World Series in a long while, because the New York market is big, the LA market is huge. So this is going to be something special to behold. When I take a look at both of these teams' postseason runs, they're both impressive, but they had a bit of question marks. So first things first, we're going to start with the Dodgers. Obviously, you went toe-to-toe with the Padres for a second year in a row, and so a lot of question marks there, but the Padres had a great team. So big win, and then you take out the Miracle Mets. This was a Miracle Mets team in 6 games. They gave you a lot of problems, but then you closed it out in Game 6. What a win that was. As for the Yankees, not much resistance otherwise, though they had challenges from the Royals and from the Guardians. So both teams had struggles to get to the World Series, but now that they're here, they're both clashing for the biggest game of the year, the biggest series of the year. And I chose, this is my history. I don't know if you guys remember this last year. Maybe I didn't say it, maybe I did. I chose the Yankees and the Dodgers to make the World Series the year the Rangers won. I didn't think my Rangers were going to make it, but I did think the Yankees and the Dodgers had potent offenses and were going to make it, but of course they crashed out. I don't even think the Yankees made the playoffs. And then this year, even though I didn't pick a World Series champion or World Series matchup, I did have the Dodgers and the Yankees having the best record in their respective conferences, which they managed to do. And now, finally, the long-awaited World Series matchup. This is tough because both teams, you can flip a coin. This is one of those situations where I'm not comfortable picking any team because they're so amazing. Now, the Dodgers, I think, have a more high-powered offense, but take that with a grain of salt because sometimes they can be inconsistent with it. The pitching game, I'd probably favor New York, and normally the pitching game is what wins the World Series, but I just think that the Dodgers offense is going to come alive. I think the actual key player in this entire World Series is Mookie Betts. Because of his experience, he won with Boston, he won with LA in 2020, so he has the World Series experience. Overall, I think that is going to be the game changer. I am going to take the Dodgers in 7. It's going to 7 games. There's no question. This has to be a 7-game series. I'd be shocked if it was anything less. They're just going to be, it's going to be a battle back and forth, and no matter what, the games are going to come down to the final innings. I don't think any team can really pull away from anyone else, and if they do, that's very impressive. I just think that both teams offensively are very similar. The Yankees may have a pitching advantage, but when I say similar on offense, I do favor the Dodgers, and I do think the Dodgers offense is way better than the Yankees pitching. That could be a little bit of an overstatement. You might say I don't know baseball, but when I look at this Dodgers offensive lineup, man, they are tough. They are excellent. So, Dodgers win the World Series in 2024 in 7 games, 4-3. All right. Now that is the end of today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. I hope you guys are excited. Everything is back. NBA, NFL is still here, and then the World Series, which is just going to be so fun to watch. I'm definitely going to be watching some games there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do, if you haven't already, please go follow me on all my social medias. Go follow me on Twitter so you can actually keep up for when I'm missing certain weeks. I'll put stuff on Twitter just so you guys can know like what my predictions are, just so you guys know I'm not lying to you guys when I said I went 11-4 last week. So just so we are all on the same page, go follow me on Twitter, go follow me on Facebook, go follow me on Instagram. TikTok, I have not touched TikTok in a while. So if you don't follow me there, that's fine. Also, keep up with shorts. That's where I post a lot of things. I'm going to be making some changes, obviously. I won't be continuing for much longer if the playoffs started today on shorts, because we're going to be getting the actual college football playoff rankings that come on Tuesdays. So it won't matter what I say there. I will start doing some NBA stuff, probably saying like who the best team throughout the week or the best player and blah, blah, blah. And with that said, that will do it for today's episode. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.